Sports leagues around the U.S. are feeling the impact of rising positive cases. The NFL postponing 3 of this weekend's games after outbreaks led to more than 150 players on the COVID-19 reserve list in just the past 5 days. The Raiders versus the Browns, Washington versus the Eagles, and Seahawks versus Rams games have all been moved to early next week after the Browns, Washington, and the Rams saw a surge in cases among their players and staff as the NFL updates their COVID protocols. We're now joined by USA Today's Sports Plus senior NFL insider and CBS Sports, Josina Anderson, who broke the news today about the postponements. Now, the NFL knew they had a problem earlier in the week when the Cleveland Browns quarterback and head coach both tested positive. But when did things get more serious? Do you think we're going to see any more postponements this weekend?
Well, it became more serious when the outbreak just became more plentiful, not just with one team, but with multiple teams, as you mentioned. And the league really was trying to resist any change as far as postponement of games like they did in 2020. Really want to just show that they have learned a lot from the pandemic last year. And also just with the use of vaccinations across the leagues, really wanting to show that their incentivizing of the players was working. But when you start getting into the 100-plus player positive number that you mentioned, which is a record in such a short period of time, at some point, you're going to have to address it, because then it becomes a game integrity issue, whether a team can just field, a proper roster, especially in December football, where the playoffs are on the line. And so they made the bend today, especially after long negotiations with the NFLPA, who went into this season asking the NFL to really modify the protocols at the outset of the season and do daily testing. But it resisted. It did go from 2 weeks to 1 week for fully vaccinated players, and it has maintained that cadence. But this week in North Texas, with the owners' meetings, they did make some adjustments that culminated in the postponements that we see today.
So, Josina, when it comes to the players, does the NFL or the teams have a real handle on who's been fully vaccinated and who's been boosted?
Well, they know who's vaccinated and they know who is boosted, and they also know who is unvaccinated. I really think that the question really comes down to, when is somebody infected? And when there's such a large period of time between testing as there is when you are having fully vaccinated players in the building not being tested, then it allows a large period where you don't know their status. And I do believe, in addition to like the rest of society, with the holidays and the bye weeks in the sports leagues, that in addition to the testing cadence being what I just mentioned, really contributed to this spike happening in the NFL. And it's really curious because even though they've made adjustments, they haven't changed that. And also, one thing they did do is make it easier for fully vaccinated players who do test positive to actually test out and come back to games, so long as they have now 1 negative test instead of 2. And as we do know, you're trying to have safety protocols minded, but at the same time run a business. And sometimes those two things intersect but don't go together.
Josina Anderson, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.